Welcome back to the Pushing Through Loss podcast, where we share stories, honor resilience, and embrace strength. I am Kalila Green Siciliano, and it is my honor to begin the journey with you. Let's get this party started. It's so nice to have you today, Nefertiti. It's been a pleasure, even just in the first few minutes we started speaking. And I'm really grateful that you found the podcast and that you wanted to come on and share a little bit about your experience with loss, which is such a difficult topic, but that so far we've been able to really make it a little bit lighter and make it a little bit easier to laugh about, which is always helpful. So welcome.
Thanks for the kind invitation. I am delighted to share this virtual time with you and your audience and get some inspirational notes and give out some options and resources, because when you are processing losses and you are in a stage of grieving, any little bit of uplifting is greatly appreciated.
Definitely. And I think that's a great place to start, because being stuck in grief is something that nobody ever expects, even though we all know that death is a part of life. You had said right before we started recording, nobody ever prepares you for what happens. And so when you get to that point where you're sort of expecting the death, it's like, okay, now what? I don't know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. So let's start at your beginning to understand a little bit more about how you came to this process of grieving and working your way through it.
I became the solution to my own troubles. And I was chronically depressed most of my life. And that brings the emotional charge to a different level. And when you have the compound effects of losses and grieving and things pile up on top of each other like a parfait, you reach a point where you might lose your sanity. And I was in that borderline. I call it the virus apocalypse, aka COVID-19. I had a good number of unresolved issues at the emotional level, but I was being busy, being fabulous. I am a performing artist. And at that time, my performing season was reaching to a point that my calendar was busy almost all year round. Something that started as a kind of community engagement, it turned out to be part of my income. And what it was a short season, it expanded to almost all year round affair. And I was very busy doing those things. But then when everything came to a very abrupt stop, then the level of grieving went out of control, because not only I am forced to stop my passion, but then I'm stuck within four walls. And then monkey mind start going all over the place. And you are ruminating on the losses, the grieving, the things that went wrong, the things that could have been better. What was your contribution for things going in that direction? And it was a very dark place. I was dealing with anxiety. In addition to the depression, I started to get mild panic attacks. The stress was off the charts. I had nightly insomnia that it was not going away. And it got to a point that in the middle of the night, I was crying my heart out. And I say, this is it. I don't know how, I don't know when, I don't know who, or I don't have any answer, but I will fix this situation in a sustainable way. That was the critical part for me, because the methods available out in the public, it's terrifying to me. I don't believe in pharmaceutical products, because I think that it's a nasty industry. That's how they make their millions, getting you hooked to their chemicals and the side effects of the next pill. Then the whole codependency with a shrink or a therapist or a psychiatrist, it's also terrifying to me, because it's all transactional. You go and repeat the same thing for every session, you pay, you get out the door, you keep repeating the same thing. But I haven't found anybody who have told me, oh, I came out of a session with these tools that I can implement as a lifestyle, and then I don't need them anymore. is just years and years of codependency. So that
Mm.
was menu too. Then going the easy route of substance abuse, that was not even an option for me to entertain. And
I love that
everything
you call
changed.
that the easy route because to me, I agree with you. I think it is the easy route, but it's something that is so hard to get out of. So it makes it seem like, okay, it's easy to get into, but then what? It doesn't solve anything.
And then the consequences that comes out of that.
Right.
So everything that it was out there in the market, it was terrifying to me. And I went on a quest. I came across behavioral neuroscience, and that was the magic potion for me.
Mm.
Then I started implementing those knowledge of behavioral neuroscience as a lifestyle. And I started curating my environment and being more mindful about my surroundings and, very importantly, the people around it. And then I came to the realization that my chronic depression and a lot of the contributions that I provided myself into some of those losses, it was because of my depression. When you don't have clear mind, you don't take the right decisions.
Right.
And it's just a very complicated state. And when I started using behavioral neuroscience as a lifestyle, then I transferred that into my artist practice, which is Ikebana, the Japanese floral design school. And I have been not only expanding upon that combination, but I have been creating content and programs how to teach other people to follow similar protocols that worked out for me to process those emotions and dig myself out of depression, because I see depression as the 21st century cancer on a mental state, because it gets worse and that trickles down to your personal physical health, and there's no end. And when you take things to a different level of making it a lifestyle, then it's not only sustainable, but it becomes a second nature. And then you don't have to go outside to look for help. You are self-contained.
Right.
And getting to that level of mastery of being self-contained is very important for me.
Mm.
Yes, you can outsource certain things, but having that mastery of emotions and how you protect yourself emotionally, it became very important to me. And that's something that I like to campaign around that and make public awareness, because you don't know what you don't know.
Right. I love that. And when you say you don't know what you don't know, it makes sense because it's also one of those where you don't know what you're going to need until you need it.
And sometimes you didn't even know that you need it to begin with.
Right. Right. So tell me a little bit about when you got into this behavioral analysis. What was like that first step that you thought, okay, I can do this and it will actually make a difference?
It has been an ongoing process. And I started by just looking at my options and being more mindful of my surroundings. I was very fortunate because the person who trained me in this modality, it's brilliant. He has helped millions of people out there. And I took it to a different level, because then I was intertwining the behavioral neuroscience with art, but using it as a therapeutic activity for self-expression and better mental health.
Right. And you're
And
using things that are grounding. You're using flowers and dirt and rocks, and it really helps the person to feel like they're part of the earth.
yes, it's very grounding and it's very zen. And there's so much that it's not shared with us. Like, for example, environment. It's anything that it's going to alterate your state of mind and your well-being.
Mm.
And in behavioral neuroscience, there are 9 different environments categorized. And I took it upon myself to master the tangible environment. I promote Zen vibes with the floral artistry, the interior decor, how to transfer those principles into your own wardrobe, how to do a 3D vision board. And it has evolved into this beautiful thing that it has many, many different benefits. It's not only processing the grieving and the losses, but also stop the surviving mode and go into thrive. Because I went from chronically depressed and crying my heart out, all the different things that I have lost over my years on this planet, into becoming 4 times international bestseller author in Amazon, multiple categories. I co-authored a book with Marie Diamond. I recently claimed my first international award in London from Speakers Are Leaders. And all these wonderful things have had happened because I came up with what I call my own holy grail. Because if somebody told me 4 years ago that I was going to be doing all these wonderful things when I was having nightly episodes of insomnia, I will be saying, yeah, give me some of that. I want to hallucinate with you. How is that?
That's amazing. Do you
It,
know if there was one thing that sort of set off your depression and anxiety, or if it was just a compound of things, or if there was really nothing specific?
oh, everything is a specific. There's no such a random thing. You might think it's random, but it's not. And it was compound effect because growing up, I was an unwanted child, and both of my parents, they were respectable, likable sociopaths, and my pain was not taken seriously. When I was 14 years old, my father left me destitute with my mother in the middle of a Christmas season. He took off with a family that he had on the side, and we didn't have not even a full dollar to our names to do grocery shopping.
Wow.
My life was never, ever the same. I hated Christmas every time that it came around. And it was so bad that I earned the nickname of Mrs. Grinch because I absolutely hated Christmas.
Oh, that's so sad.
I mean, it had been a long chain of events that it set me off on the depressive mode because it was not only the abandonment from my father, but I got into a business and I almost went bankruptcy. I dated somebody and I made a mistake. I have to own my stupidity that I co-signed a business loan for $10,000. The guy dumped me, went off with another woman, and I was responsible to pay the $10,000 under my name. He
Yikes.
didn't make it happen. He parted the money with a woman. So all those things, all those losses just piles up. Then later, the weekend of my birthday in 2017, pretty much what my father did to me, my mother did it to me in the same bank. She took off, she scammed me for money, she got access to my safety deposit box, she cleared out my valuables. I was almost homeless. And how did you digest that your own parents leave you destitute?
Wow.
When you see people like killing themselves, it's a sad situation. And I wonder how many of those people, they have gone so betrayed and so to the edge that they don't see any other way out but to kill themselves.
Right.
Then few months later, that 2017, the guy that I thought that it was a dream person for me, and I really entertained the idea of marrying him, he takes off, relocates to another state, and he takes out my business supplies. I was left out with nothing again.
Wow.
So when you talk about losses, I have lost it all, from opportunities that I declined because I was so committed to these relationships. I have lost valuables, monetary resources. I have lost my time, good valuable years in my life because I wanted to make it happen in these toxic relationships that it didn't bring any value to me. And it was a really bad compound effect. Now I pause, I reflect, I own my contribution to those things, because if you just dump the guilt or the shame or the blame into somebody else, well, yeah, they have their bad behavior and shame on them, but I made my contribution because I should not have signed for the $10,000 loan. I am not a bank and I got stuck with the bill. I should have been more protective of my financial resources with my own family. I should have said, hey, this is a dream opportunity for me. I'm going to take this contract, and sorry that I'm not around to babysit you.
Right.
I
But
made
I
a choice.
but I think it's also really important, and I'm sure that you know this, and you just haven't said it yet. But it's one of those where, especially when we talk about the loss of death and knowing that both of your parents basically abandoned you, you have no idea, I guess, if they're alive or not. Um, but that it's not your fault. And it's something that, yes, you can own the mistakes that you made. And that is very key in saying, like, okay, I can't change what happened, but I can change how I move forward from it. But also that there are certain things that were completely out of my control. So, what are the things that I can control? What are the things that moving forward I can say, okay, it was stupid of me to sign that loan. I'm not going to do that again. It was stupid of me to think that I could trust certain people. I'm going to guard my trust a little bit more. Things like that, where you can say they weren't all really your fault. It was all learning experiences, and to own that, but then to move forward and change, like you said, use that behavior analysis, use that cognitive dissonance to say, okay, what can I do moving forward now?
Yes. And then talking about the death when it comes as a loss into your life. Between February 2021 and February 2023, I lost three dear people to my heart due to cancer,
Wow.
different times. But it was very hard for me because being orphan adult and finding people along the way to be supportive, nurturing, and unconditional within their resources to me, and then they die, I feel the pain beyond words.
Right.
How do I replace those three amazing, kind souls that they went out of their way to be supportive of my endeavors?
Hmm.
And one thing that it helped me for those three particular losses is that because I do the Japanese floral artistry, I was able to adorn the space for them. I brought them flowers, and it was not cheap flowers from the local market. It was a designer piece crafted by me. Very intentional, very curated, very artistic. And one of them, he was in hospice for a while, and I would leave the flowers right in the night table, and it was next to him all the time. That for me was comforting. Then my other friend, I went to her place weekly, and I set up flowers in the kitchen and what we call her napping station. She was so exhausted all the time. She had a couch, a coffee table. So she will spend the days in there laying down, and I will adorn that table. So when she woke up from a nap, she will see beautiful flowers, and she will have that connection with the flowers and me. And when she got taken away from the house in an ambulance, she died 3 days later. But up to the second that she was in that couch, she had a floral arrangement that I intentionally made it for her. And then my other friend, she was a beautiful performing artist. She lived in Canada, and we hadn't seen each other in multiple years. She died, and prior to her death, we connected via emails and I sent her virtual flowers. That was my thing. So I will take pictures of my creations. And she lived in Japan. She spoke the language. However, she was American, well, Canadian. And she had a fascination for anything in Japanese. So she extra appreciated the creations that I sent virtually to her with a particular theme. Like, for example, it was around New Year's, and I sent her a picture of this arrangement that it had the feel of sparkling fireworks. And that was the last piece that she received from me. And then a few
Wow.
days later, but
Wow.
I was able to have my inner peace because we bonded over flowers, and I was able to provide value during those last moments of their lives.
Hmm.
So it's like, oh my God, I didn't see them and I'm going to send them flowers to the funeral. No, I made sure that they had something beautiful to see on the daily basis up until the last breath. That made me feel in peace with myself.
Yeah. And I think that it's
All
beautiful to connect that you were able to say, okay, you found this passion that you've obviously got a great creative mind for, to be able to take whatever you've been feeling, whatever anxiety and depression and insomnia that you've gone through, you've made these connections with these three beautiful people, and that's how you can show them your love and they can appreciate it and understand where you're coming from also. I think that's just so beautiful.
So now I campaign for both of them, the neuroscience, behavioral neuroscience as a lifestyle, and also floral artistry as a way not only of self-expression, but as a therapeutic art.
Hmm. How did you get into the floral expression as therapeutic art? I know you said that you had found it, but what happened when you were working with the behavioral awareness and then going into floral art?
Back in 2007, I lived in South Florida and I started Ikebana school. I
Okay.
already formal training. Then I relocated, jump around, lived in different places in the country. And when I came to Massachusetts, I had the opportunity to work at a flower shop, and I have been with that business for the past 6 years and counting. During that time, I picked up again Ikebana. It's very different from traditional floral design. And when the whole virus apocalypse forced me to be confined within four walls, two things happened. Well, three things happened. One, I got the opportunity to submit a piece for an online international exhibit. And that got me motivated to be more intentional and picked up again what I left off in the Ikebana training back in 2009. That's when I stopped. I had 2 years. That was one thing. The other thing is that because I was working at a flower shop and everything got shut down, we have a massive amount of inventory. And I got some of those resources to take home. And when I was dealing with insomnia, I will force myself to be entertained with flowers. My house looked like a mix of greenhouse and a retail floral shop. There's a little arrangement and something dry and something hanging. And that was a positive way of distraction during those insomnia nights.
Hmm.
Then I came across behavioral neuroscience and I start putting the two together. Well, we're talking about triggers and how you manage that. And then I noticed that if I do this in Ikebana, I can kind of cross modalities and I see the results. And then I start making my own personal digging within the art form. And there's so much to be said. It started as a devotional practice in the 1400s. It was originally practiced by priests and monks and a high clergy. And then I was like, well, there must be something about it. If originally was established as a devotional practice, get connected with the divine and have a little bit more of inner peace. So I started digging in that realm. And then I intertwine it with humanistic Buddhism. And there were phrases that I heard from the lectures that they are similar to the principles from behavioral neuroscience. And then I started joking about it. It's like, oh, Buddha be praised, he's a neuroscientist. And those outside the box thinking is what got me even more interested and more passionate about digging deeper and making those connections and establish certain things as a regular practice.
Mm.
From all those things, then I added some feng shui, and I got to do some connections with Marie Diamond. She's famous in her space for feng shui practice. And I started to experience not only a very wild, positive change in my life, but the opportunities and the new experiences and the endless possibilities that start showing up and manifesting in my life. I took notes like, this really works. Let me start doing more of that. And now I teach other people, and I created Neurobana. And I call it Neurobana because behavioral neuroscience and Ikebana practice. And I campaign for that as a lifestyle, because you can learn, you can take classes, but unless you apply it, you are just entertaining yourself.
Right. Okay, so I
Oh,
have a very important question for you because I
okay.
have a black thumb. I cannot keep plants alive. For somebody like me, how would you say that you could combine those two? Because I swear I touch a plant and I'm like, I think I killed it.
Well, there's a difference between floral artistry and gardening.
Okay.
And you can do one, the other, or both, and it's all up to you.
Okay.
When I teach my programs, I am very intentional in teaching my students how to work with the resources and what materials are more hardy, that is going to give you more time to enjoy those plant materials. Also, there are certain ways how you kind of trick the material. For example, a practical way to condition the flowers, and that goes for anybody. You get a bouquet of flowers from the market. You get fresh room temperature water, no cold, not hot, and you serve it into a bowl. And before you transfer the bouquet of flowers into the vase, you are going to cut the end of the stems multiple times with those stems being submerged into the water. That's going to make a big difference in the lifespan of the fresh plant material.
So how do you store them in the bowl when you take it out, you just lay them kind of so the stems are leaning in the bowl and then the rest of the bouquet is sitting on the edge of the bowl?
No, so let's say that you have a bouquet of flowers that you are just taking home,
Right.
and to place it on a tall vase because you
Okay.
have a roses with a long stem. So you are going to unwrap the bouquet. You're going to have a bowl with water, and you're going to trim those stems individually under the water. Then you transfer your plant material to the vase where you want to display them in your house.
Got it.
So the fact that you take the time to cut the material, give it a fresh cut underwater, is going to extend the life of the material that you are bringing home.
Interesting. And how many times do you suggest to cut it underwater? 2? 3?
Maybe like 2 or 3. You clip, always underwater, and just notice when the end of the stem it doesn't look crunchy.
Okay.
Because when you get it from the flower market or the store, when you pay attention to the end of the stems, it usually looks like a little bit dry,
Mhm.
like it's getting big. So you cut until you see the stem that it has a lush green look.
Got it.
Then you got rid of the part that it's already dry. And when you do the fresh cut underwater, there's no air bubble on the cut.
Mhm.
That's the difference. When you just cut on regular surface without using the water, then it seals the stem with air bubbles. So when you put it on,
Oh.
really nurture the plant material. And
Okay,
nobody
so
tells
that would help. I had no idea. And one of my best friends is like the best gardener ever. And I'm not even sure she knows that. So I'm gonna pass that information along to her.
also the other thing, for example, if you do your own gardening, you have to be aware that you are not altering nature. Therefore, the material is going to last shorter time than getting it from a grower, because when you get it from a grower, they are modifying genetically those materials because they need to last between the processing from the farm, the shipping, the wholesaler, and the consumer.
Right.
So they have to manipulate nature and modify DNA wise the material so they can last longer. So you
Right.
cannot expect the rose from your garden to last the same length as an imported rose
Got it.
from a store.
Right. That makes sense.
So, so when you say I have a black thumb, trust me, you don't. You just don't know the tricks to make it work to your benefit. Also, the other thing is that when you know what materials to use, you can dry them, and then you have everlasting dry arrangements.
Mhm.
Uh, Place is a little bit of a mess, but I'm going to show you here on off to the side a dry arrangement that I did for display at a business, and that was in 2020. It dry and it's still looking beautiful almost 4 years later.
Wow.
So when what kind of materials to use, you can do a lot. So let me move here. I think that I have the setting on blurry. So let me change that real quick. Um,
That's so interesting that you could even dry them out. I know, like, I've dried out roses before. I've hung them upside down, or I've pressed flowers in between pages of books, but I never thought that you could take a floral arrangement and dry it out. For anybody who's listening instead of watching on YouTube, for example, this is a beautiful bouquet with yellow and red and light tans and browns. And this bouquet, yes, it's a dried out flower bouquet, but it looks stunning. It looks like it could be potpourri and it would still smell beautiful even though there's no live flower in there.
and that have been adorning my space for almost 4 years.
That's beautiful.
So there's no excuse to say that you have a black thumb, because if it's dry arrangement.
I love it. It also I think it goes back to this idea of there are certain things that you can control and there's certain things that you can't control, and when you know what the differences are between the two, it helps so much to be able to ground yourself, and it helps so much to be able to say, okay, how can I move forward knowing what I have the power over and what I don't? And if you have the power over making your space look beautiful, however you choose to do that, that is a really, really powerful thing to understand.
And also, if you are grieving, because I have been there more than once, to do an arrangement as an offering, as a devotional practice, if you are a person of faith, that will serve you greatly as well. And it brings you a beautiful sense of inner peace that you don't get with other art modalities. There's
Right.
something about Ikebana that it's very unique to this art form, and you cannot recreate it any other way.
Mhm. And I think also flowers in general and the ground in general gives off this energy that just helps to soothe people. There's something to be said about getting involved with nature, whether you think that you can't grow plants or can grow plants, it doesn't matter. I know my kids and I all the time try to be barefoot as much as possible, even so much to the extent where my youngest sometimes will get to the car when we're going places and I'm like, "Did you remember to bring your shoes?" He's like, "Oh no, I have to go inside." So to get your feet in the dirt, to get your feet touching the ground, feeling the grass, feeling the sand, whatever it is around you is so key to mental health.
It does wonders. And there are, again, so many different benefits to this practice because, from the point of making it a way of self expression to entertaining,
Right.
because let's say that the holidays are coming and you are going to host people, and you make your own centerpiece and your welcoming arrangement at the entrance of your home. It connects with people and it always makes you not only memorable but the talk of the party.
Mhm. I
So
love that.
again, there are many different practices. If you are a business owner, you can treat your VIP clients with floral designs that come from your own crafty hands. And what a great way to bond with people and make everlasting impressions.
Right.
This is the most sustainable art form that I have experienced. And I have done art in many different ways, in different capacities. But Ikebana, I breathe it, I excel it. It's my passion. I teach it. I have it handy. And also, the other thing that I love specifically from my school, we have a slogan that it says anytime, anywhere. And we really mean it. You can practice traveling in somebody else's house with no resources, going out for a walk and pick out a couple of branches, and you end up doing something beautiful because the curriculum is so creative. We have over 100 prompts that it gives you ideas and techniques to work with whatever resources you have handy. And to give you a good reference, 2 weekends ago, I had the opportunity to showcase one of my designs at the Massachusetts Horticultural Society. And the piece that I crafted, it was done with poultry fence and cable ties. And
Interesting.
then and then I drape something called billy balls, fern, and baby's breath. And then I hang it with a fish line. So it had a 360-degree viewing. If there was a little bit of draft air coming into the room, it will spin it around. It was a conversation piece.
I'm sure it
And
sounds
there
like
were
it.
and there were people exhibiting with very expensive containers, hundreds of dollars in ceramic. Beautiful, but that was not what I wanted to showcase. I want to present to the public what is possible. And while floral design can have a reputation of being vain, superfluous, or just for special occasions, I'm here to teach people that this is for you to enjoy anytime, anywhere, even if you don't have money. There's no excuse because you can get a kitchen bowl, some water, couple of leaves from walking on the sidewalk, and even 3 dandelions, and you drop it in there and you have a beautiful floating arrangement with no money involved. And the value, the visual value, it's priceless. And that's also one of the things that helped me with my depression and dealing with financial challenges. I was able to treat myself to beautiful things visually with no money.
Right.
And that was so uplifting because then I trained myself to look at resources and possibilities instead of crying what I am not able to afford.
And again, it's
And
all
that
about you just said it perfectly. It's all about how you change your outlook moving forward. You could have just sat and wallowed. You could have there's a lot in your life obviously that you could have kept that depression and kept that anxiety and just kept it stuck inside. And the fact that you can change your outlook and say, "Okay, I'm grateful for the things that I have. Now moving forward, what sort of things are at my disposal to use, whether they cost money or not? What is it?"
And then you become resourceful. It's not about the resources that you don't have.
Right.
And that helps you with processing losses and grief too.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally does.
There's so beautiful benefit from this practice. I'm very passionate about it. I do library presentations. I teach small groups. I have done presentations for educational organizations here in Massachusetts. And every opportunity that I have to share my passion with people, it's very rewarding because I always see the aha moment from my students or even the listeners, like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, that's a different way how to present it. Now I'm going to practice. Now I have the curiosity. And then I feel well served and my job is being accomplished because I am bringing that education and that awareness.
That's beautiful. Where can people find you if they want to either take classes or find out more about Ikebana and the behavioral neuroscience and how you've combined them?
I will say via email, and let's put it on the episode notes so they can drop me a line. I
Definitely.
do floral parties via Zoom as well as in person. I go all over New England. I have done programs, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, here in Massachusetts, western part of the state. And I am getting into retreats. Those are really my next level up in passion because you get to submerge yourself at a deeper level and you get to connect with people at a much more intimate fashion than just a 2-hour workshop. But if the initial connection is a 2-hour workshop or hour and a half floral party virtual, well, that's a great start. Either way, I am a click away. My email is my name and last name, Nefertiti, Nefertiti dot San Miguel, SAMMIGUEL at gmail.com.
Perfect. We will
And
definitely include that in the show notes.
And I also have a Facebook page. So if somebody is into social media, they can drop me a line with the messenger option. And
Perfect.
I have often post here and there of ongoing exhibits, my designs and things of that nature.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for sharing this gorgeous and incredible and grounding practice. I think it's so beautiful. And I really appreciate that you had reached out. I'm so honored to have you on.
Well, and let's connect again, and then you can tell me how did it work out for you, the flower tricks and hacks, so you don't
I,
have an say you have a black thumb.
I was gonna say, I know that we're recording right before Mother's Day, but by the time this comes out, it'll be after Mother's Day, and I can't wait to see how once I've re-clipped my flowers that hopefully my husband will buy for me, that see how long they last.
Well, I'm going to send you virtual flowers. That's what I do. I have a gallery of pictures, and you can get ideas on how to use the containers or clear vases and the flowers. So you can unleash your own artistic personality by getting inspired with a gallery of pictures before Mother's Day.
Perfect. I love it.
Well, thank you so much for the time and the heartwarming conversation. Sending you much love, and let's carry on the party again soon.
You got it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Until next time.
Thank you for joining me today on Pushing Through Loss. I hope this episode has provided support, understanding, and a sense of community. Remember, you are not alone on your journey, and you have the strength to face the challenges that come your way. If you found value in today's conversation, please leave me a review and consider sharing it with others who may benefit. Together, we can help each other heal and activate our inner strength warriors. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations, and until next time, you got this.